everyone. Good to see you again. Happy old-fashioned Sunday to you. Stick around after we get through the circuit board of the PT15. I want you to stick around for what I have to say about the Soldano versus the PT15. You're going to want to hear my opinion of this very expensive amp. And I'm going to go ahead and say it now. When you're looking for a new amp, go to sites like Sweetwater Guitar Center and see how well they've sold. Something like the Hughes and Kettner 40 has sold quite a few units. When you look up the PT15, Sweetwater, I think, has sold 2, and the thing is 4 years old. The HK Hughes and Kettner 40 is probably 5 years old, but they've sold 24, and it's like 4.5, 5-star reviews. So keep that in mind when you're searching around for your next amp purchase. All right, stay tuned. All right, today we have on the bench the PT15. This is the unit without the IR stuff, just a straightforward tube amplifier. So take a look around inside here. Pretty nicely put together, large 1/8 watt, or actually 1/4 watt. There's a little 1/8 watt, that little blue guy down there, but large 1/4 watt resistors, which is really nice. This is, there's some rectification there on the bottom, and then again up here, some diodes making a full wave rectifier, good size capacitors, a couple of transistors in here that right in the center is probably a push-pull pair, could be some it's like a little gain stage perhaps for the clean channel, because the clean is not real clean. So not sure, but it looks probably like a push-pull pair there. And that's the main power board. There's the bias potentiometer right there in the middle, and the R48 is clearly labeled as a bias resistor. Now, right next to that is a feedback from the output. That's our impedance indicator or selector right there. And a lot of Marshalls have a feedback circuit in it. And apparently, if you change the feedback resistor, it's probably, I don't know, I could look at the bands, but it's probably a pretty large value resistor. And you can put like a 0 to 500K pot in place of it so that you have a variable feedback circuit. And apparently you can change a lot regarding the tone of your amp. I know for the JVM 410 and the JVM 205, that's one of the really recommended modifications that you do. So kind of cool to see that. Now this board back here is the main power board, input power board right there. This has the 2 power tubes on it. The big guys are right there. And it's separate from the rest of the PCB, which is kind of cool. I guess if your tubes were to red plate and smoke those sockets, then you wouldn't have to replace anything except that individual power board, which is kind of nice for repairs and such. Large sandstone resistors, wouldn't hurt to have those mounted off the circuit board a little bit higher so the air could get around underneath them. There's plenty of space to do that. But they certainly know what they're doing. There's down here we have a voltage regulator handling probably the DC voltage for one of the buses. Not sure, but it's there. Doesn't mean it's bad. And these transistors back here too, just because they're transistors, that's still analog, full-on analog. Just because you see transistors doesn't mean it's digital by any means. There's a couple of them. There's a pair there, U11 and U10, and then over here Q4 and Q5. Q5 for sure. 4 and 5, a couple of transistors. All right, now the impedance selector here, this is kind of interesting because this is our output wire to the output jacks. The jacks are right here, parallel jacks, which I really like. I appreciate a pair of parallel jacks instead of just one jack on the back of an amp. But look how small this wire is. It's really teeny. And people talk about, you know, the whole idea of monster cable is to make sure you're not losing any signal between your amp and your speakers. And while this is I think a pretty much solid core wire, it's still really teeny going out to our jacks right there. So possible upgrade, I'm not sure. You know, that's the reason for this big, thick cable. This is for a speaker, from amp to speaker. It's extra thick, shielded, all that. The whole idea behind that. All right, but moving on, lots of relays, and you'll hear it clicking around as you do different things. Preamp tubes right there, and all the preamp, well, all the tube sockets are mounted to the chassis, which is nice. The pots, while small, are metal and washable. They've got windows on the front and windows on the side, so that if you were to get a noisy pot, it would be fairly easy to wash that out with some contact cleaner and get rid of the noise. So that's nice. Not plugged in like on the Friedman. So you still have a ton of soldering to do if you need to take some of those out. But nice pots, washable. They do this grounding thing here. This one is the master volume, and they've gotten into the shielding around this wire. As you can see, it's thicker there than it is here, so they've exposed the shielding, and then they wrap a wire clear around it and ground the shielding and the lug of that pot. So it must be pretty high temperature insulation for you to be doing something like that. But they do it from time to time to time. There's another one right here where they've done that same thing. Grabbed up some of the shielding, wrapped it up, grounded it. That little IC right there in the middle, I'm pretty sure is an opto isolator. Usually any 6-pin deal like that is an opto. Relays, relays, relays. There's really not a whole lot other in here other than little U6 over there. This board is all for the foot switch. And then those holes, well, mostly anyway. I don't know if some of it is for the IR stuff, because there's the holes in the chassis for the IR. This one does not have it, but the foot switch jack runs right over to this board as well. Not sure why. It's a stereo plug, and it's just channel selection, clean, and or then over to the dirty side, and then you have a button to go from, you know, dirty 1 to dirty 2, or crunch to gain, crunch to lead. So one button gets you off the clean channel, and then the other one switches you between crunch and your lead, high gain tone. And this is pretty cool. They soldered, it's an aluminum chassis, and it's welded. It's not soldered, but welded up in each corner. And then the flanges for this are bent out. Many chassis have the metal come clear out to the outside, and they bend the chassis in to the amp for these floating nuts, self-threading nuts. Not self-threading, but you know what I mean. They float in there to make assembly really easy. And in this situation, they folded this out, but super thick aluminum chassis, which is pretty cool. All right. So that's about it, other than this shielded input. Here's our input jack, and it's got a box all the way around it with some of that that wire with the shielding that they grounded there, and then the tip goes out to Cabamo, the PCB, right by that cute little capacitor C1. Now, let's see what the top looks like. Put you down a second. You're going to be, I think, surprised by the size of this power transformer. That thing is a beast. Comparing it to like the Tweaker 15 or some of the other amps, that thing is large. And this amp is loud. I'm not going to be able to get it up to its potential here where I'm at, but nice complement of tubes. That's it, you know what I'm saying? 6V6 GT. So, I'll put this back together and see what it sounds like. All right, hey there, long time no see. I had a Suhr PT15 in the room lately, and I don't have it here now, so this is kind of a funny review, but I had to get it back to the store, and I wasn't very impressed with it compared to the SLO30. Now, I'll tell you why. I made some notes. Channel 1 on the PT15 has a gain knob that should be labeled fat, because as you turn it up, the signal just gets fatter, and there really is no additional gain. It's not clean to begin with. I think Pete said it was based on a blackface Fender. I really don't know what that is, but I can tell you it's not crystal clean. And then as you turn the gain up, it just got fatter rather than more gainy. So you really didn't end up with a crunch channel from channel 1, in my opinion. Then over to channel 2, it was awesome. Everybody's channel 2 seems to be awesome. Until you turned the gain down to try and get a real nice crunch tone, and then the channel really thinned out, in my opinion, again. So again, no crunch, really. Channel 1 doesn't deliver it. Channel 2 is a great distortion channel, higher gain, not super high gain, like metal territory, but you still couldn't turn it down and get that low gain crunch tone that so many of us desire. And then channel 3 had lots of gain, and I think it's the same voicing but more mid-present. Same voicing as channel 2, but the mids were definitely more pronounced, and but it was so compressed from the get-go that it won't take a pedal and get you into that juicy, searing, soaring, sustaining type of lead tone that you desire. The kind of tone that lets you hang a note out there indefinitely until you decide to pull it back. There were lots of gain, but you couldn't get, and I think you know what I'm talking about, you couldn't get into that, where it's still, you have the definition and clarity, but you're just ringing out and it's sustaining and it's cool. So, in comparing it to this, I wanted to just quickly show you a couple things. Now, the clean channel on this amp is very clean, but there is a huge volume drop between the crunch and the clean. You really have to turn up the normal volume in order to get a decent clean, or a loud clean, because the clean is nice, but if we were to turn over to crunch right now, whoa, all right. So a drawback of many amps is this exact thing. But when you do go over to the crunch, you end up with a really, really fun crunch channel that's extremely musical. And the neat thing about this is, if you turn up the gain on the normal channel, you can get into some pretty heavy dirt, but rolling off the volume on your guitar, juicy. That is such a good tone. I don't think you can hear how good that is. But right back up on your guitar.
incredible channel. Musical, reactive. And then, of course, on the overdrive side, and I haven't had to change the EQ, and the EQ is fabulous. Many amps with a shared EQ, you have to, when you change channels, you have to get in there and redial your tone. Not with this. And because it has a bright switch, which is about perfect for switching between a dark guitar like the EVH and a bright guitar like the Strat, takes care of a lot of what you need to do. The other portion of maybe dimming out something like a Strat that's so bright can be handled with just changing the presence knob and bringing it back a little bit. EQ stays the same. If you get up into more overdrive, that presence knob for metalish type stuff wants to be all the way over to the right. If you're on a Strat, presence comes back. And even here, with just my guitar rolled off, still musical, still sounds good. All right, so that's kind of my review of the PT15, the most expensive amp I've ever had in here, and wasn't that impressed, especially for the huge price point. This thing, it's the new king of the hill. It's taken over the stealth position, and no plans on getting rid of it. This is my new Desert Island amp. Anyway, hope you enjoyed some info about the PT15. Help that guide your buying decisions. And next time, we may be back with the Victory Kraken MK2. Let me know what you think of that one. Out.